Mr. Beacon podcast is sponsored by Wiliot, scaling IoT with battery-free Bluetooth.
Welcome to the Mr. Beacon podcast. This week we're talking to the founders of Smart Armor, Justin Zastrow, who's the CEO, and Ira Hayes, who's the CTO. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining the podcast.
Absolutely, Mr. Beacon.
Thanks for having us.
Well, so did you have to come far for this?
Not far at all. Like up the road from North Pacific Beach for me, so San Diego.
Yeah. So we're neighbors, aren't we? Which is pretty cool. And when I heard about what you guys are doing, I was very excited because I think there's some interesting synergies with what you're doing and what Wiliot's doing. But before we talk about that, let's just talk about your core business. What is it that Smart Armor does?
Okay, well, Smart Armor builds controlled access points. We kind of looked at this IoT world a few years ago, about 5 in all reality, and we're trying to come up with solutions for locking medicine cabinets and medication management. And it's what I was kind of doing my PhD on. And so we kind of came up with, there's all this software out there, now there needs to be some hardware interactions. And so we started down the road of controlled access points, and these controlled access points being a Bluetooth, basically locking system. And so that's where it all started from, and it started in a very medical-centric kind of way to kind of keep people out of your medicine cabinet and allow software to allow them to notify you if you did or did not take it, or at least have that physical interaction between software and something that you actually have to do. And so that's where it started out of. And then as we went down the line with Justin and a bunch of the other people, we found that there's other secondary control points that people really gravitate towards, being it's either poisons under the sink for keeping toddlers out of it, or alcohol in cabinets is another one that we've got a response for. Anything you want to keep private in your secondary environment. Because as you're aware of in this world of IoT, a lot of the stuff is for ingress, egress, like access of your dwelling. And we're that secondary access control point without video surveillance right now. So it works great for that. And so there's been a lot of awesome things that everyone's predicted this IoT boom for the last 5 years we've been doing. 2020 is the epicenter of 50 billion connected devices and how it gets to really meshing all this together. And so that's where we fit in with that group, and it's really coming to fruition right now through all these interactions through wireless communication that are able to be cloud supported.
So Justin, you have two sides of the business, right? There's kind of this consumer side and the commercial side, and we've got one of your products there. Do you want to do just a very quick show and tell on that and tell us what that is, if you kind of hold it? Yeah, perfect.
Definitely. So this is called the Smart Cube. Kind of goes back to what Ira was saying when we started the business back in 2013. He came to me with this little little pill box that if you didn't take your pills, it would shoot a message to your caretaker that, hey, Dad didn't take his heart medication or whatever. So
adherence is kind of the technical term for that. Are you taking your meds?
Yeah.
So it wasn't keeping you out of your meds. It was just trying to figure out if you
saying, hey, did you adhere to the protocol, right?
Yeah.
And so so we kind of did that, and to Ira's point, we decided to go down the line of creating all these different smart locking devices, and we're like, oh man, we can be the Intel inside of smart locks and just sell our chips, right? Or the chipsets and provide the software, which is really the full audit trail, knowing who accesses, any one of these locked, where they access, when they access, all that, and then we extrapolate that data for everyday use cases and reporting and so on. And kind of through that process, we realized that people had to understand who Smart Armor was, and so we're like, well, kind of come full circle with it. We're like, well, let's go back and lock these medicine cabinets inside the homes and keep teenagers out of the Oxycontins and babies out of the bleach and your roommates out of your bedside drawers and all that stuff. So
and the key is the phone, right? You open that with your phone.
Yeah. It's the key. It is definitely the key. So the Cube is a product that we commercialized. We're selling it in Best Buy just to start, and it really is just a way for us to show that we're some big boys and we're in the market, and we provide cool tech for the likes of yourself.
Yeah. And it's it's super simple. It might seem it's a retrofittable locking system that can basically be mounted anywhere in any door or drawer. And how it works is it comes with a base plate, much like a GoPro mount for all you action sports guys that know how GoPro mounts work. It's got the strongest 3M tape, just like GoPro does, on the bottom of them. So this VHB tape actually is how you mount your base plate. It has some screw holes you can add screws into it. But then what you do is once you find your mounting location, you snap the cube into place on your base plate. And this is our, basically it works like a zip tie. It's a pin system that goes on the door or drawer. And once it locks into the cube, it basically performs a overlocking position. And now you can gain access through proximity of your phone through biometrics or through key code. And so basically you're controlling secondary spots within an environment. And so that's where we're really trying to grow the control points of the IoT world past just a sensor, because this is actually physical accountability as well, which we think is important. Like retroactive accountability is awesome to know that your toddler opened the bleach cabinet, but you're still calling poison control to prevent them and allow access, but still have that sensory notifications of when it was activated, who activated, the nanny can share the key. That is where it starts to build into the IoT side.
So those of us in the beacon world are used to these stickers you use for attaching the beacons onto the wall, and sometimes you can pull them off pretty easily. Isn't that a problem with this?
It's not. If you give this about 24 hours to cure in some emulsification process, that this tape, it's what's holding together a lot of the airplanes you're flying in, and all the windows in like the new skyscrapers are held in with VHB tape. And the great thing about it is it's not like epoxy, so you can actually take it off. And a tip for you, if you ever have something stuck on with VHB tape, like GoPro mounts, you can use a piece of dental floss to put underneath it and just pull it off.
But you can't pull it off.
You can't pull it off,
so
you have to
slice it off.
You can like slide it off because it starts to release. It's kind of like gecko's feet in a simplistic.
For pottery.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and they're very proud of it. It's quite expensive.
Yeah.
So like and so that's what. And then we have holes if you want to. We provide screws in the packaging, and you can overmount it. But what's great about this product that we found, as far as productization, is A, it's retrofittable, but B, you can install it on glass and metal, which you wouldn't be able to on a lot of things. It just required screws. And so for locking like server cabinets and things like that, it allows you to basically plug and play these, and it's removable from the base. So the only thing that has to be mounted is the base, and the rest of it snaps in.
Basically, we take any cabinet, cupboard, drawer, and we make it smart locked.
Fantastic. And so how's that going? How's business?
It's awesome. Yeah, growing every day. So
you're at Best Buy. That's pretty cool.
Best Buy was the start. About to launch in Home Depot and Costco and all the other ones with the retail product. We've got some really exciting developments on the B2B side, which is really kind of where the business is at, with the likes of yourself and doing some things in a collaboration for a lot of the bigger brands out there. And offering them the technology. We just got a patent on it, which is really cool, August 28th. Something that we filed back in 2013. So it was.
And what can you patent on a smart lock?
It's any wireless communication. It's a remote, basically any electronic lock or electromagnetic lock that's controlled via a remote controller through wireless communication of any sort. So whether it's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or Zigbee or voice or touch or sensor, any of that stuff really gets driven down to the patent. So at an overarching level, smart locks controlled by wireless communication, and there's a cool little patent in there claim that we got regarding some drone stuff. So any drone delivery wireless.
So how do drones come into this? How could a smart lock and a drone play together?
So I'm an aeronautical engineer, was my background. I don't use it too much anymore. But so what we really focused on, and most of the IP is written around, is container, which is like a cupboard or a drawer is a container of sorts. So it's the control of that environment, that inside environment. So how it applies to drones is in the delivery system, because as you see this on the horizon of drone delivery, it still has to be secured once it's delivered or once a package is given. So this is, it works
Amazon,
twofold.
keep your ears open.
It works twofold for that. One is for part of the release mechanism of the package, and the second is for controlling the package that's there to know that the actual user through their basically UDID and passcode is the one that's accessing it. Then it provides that forensic data trail back to whoever got it.
Yeah, so that audit trail is pretty cool.
That's
whether you're a parent or a business.
And that's where the real IoT part of it starts to come together, which is now it's cloud backed. And so basically we have that forever audit trail, and we wrote quite a bit in it because we knew these were portable, unlike maybe a fixed door lock. So it does the same thing as tile beacons and basically the trackable beacons, so it knows where and who opened it.
Right.
So basically it's gathering location, kind of hijacking your phone's GPS.
So what's the enterprise play then, and where does that sort of fit in your business plan without showing us the spreadsheet? But so where is the future? Is the future in me going to Best Buy to protect my drinks cabinet, or is it in the enterprise space?
You know, I think enterprise space, if you look at like self-containment, right? Or if you look at medicine containers or 18-wheelers that are, transferring food all around, eliminating a lot of that, a lot of the inefficiency of that stuff. And the transport, I think, is a huge sector for us. So if staying on the focus of logistics, or even things like smart lockers inside a gym, or, high schools or colleges, or really any one of these access points, anything regarding a container, small or the size of China, is really kind of where we fit in.
Okay, and there's basically just a lot more of them, and I'm guessing if you're an enterprise, you value the data even more than someone who's just casually trying to see if their kids have been trying to
Absolutely, and that's what we've been building, is the enterprise platform level of this, where you're controlling a hive of these.
A little different than the front door lock, right?
Yeah, a little different than the kind of the 1 use or 5 use. And so we've got a good response from like Airbnbs and people that rent out properties in order to control things that when they leave their dwelling, they don't want you opening their basically all their doors and drawers, because I don't know how many Airbnbs you've been in, but I've always been able to find alcohol. I've always been able to be like, it's free, right? Like,
there's always some
open,
sketchy, some sketchy little areas.
And you can't run video surveillance in there, like in a lot of those places, so or you're not supposed to. So you're kind of like limited to how do I protect this stuff. So that's one of the consumer users. But yeah, as we see this going, and we're rolling out some trials at the hospital system level, just to basically maintain equipment. So you can't go pilfering. It prevents pilfering really well and allows this audit trail for expensive equipment as well.
And we provide tamper alerts too. We know when people are trying to access these lock compartments, you get notifications to your phone. Hey,
someone's jiggling the door, or something like that.
It's got an accelerometer in it.
Oh man, I've got to get this.
Yeah. So we're like, hey, little Timmy, why are you trying to get into the goods? We got you. We got you.
So, this is supposed to be about beacons. This is about Bluetooth, which is super interesting. And the thing I love about these conversations, you take something simple like a smart lock, and suddenly you realize the multi-dimensional aspect to this and what it means when you integrate it with IoT. But so we're not going to announce any formal partnership, or certainly not talk about any joint customers. But give us a sense for how a self-powering battery-free Bluetooth tag might interface with something like a smart lock. What's the
Absolutely, and that's a great application for this, and that's where we see the synergy.
Really exciting.
And so how it could work is, we'll just use the locker example, where you have a locker. Amazon lockers are really expensive. Packages, any kind of shipment needs to be tracked and monitored throughout the process. And so where we see some kind of this synergy going is that if you have one of the smart cubes in, say, a 2x3 locker, and you have one of the tags on a package, anything that this tag is on, it's the UDID for that package. It's taking that information of its
the UDID,
the device like number, so it knows that number is correlated in the database.
Right.
So
Social security number.
This is tracking that, And then when a system like this can recognize that that's close, begin to power it, because you're eliminating the battery and everything else out of this, which is huge. And it's readable by all the devices we have around us. It's amazing. And so you're eliminating a big portion of the cost in this stuff, which is batteries and circuitry to do this. And so when this is recognized by this, it can help to basically power this piece.
Yes.
And then it goes, hey, I know I'm supposed to open for you package, not necessarily even a phone. So I'm going to open for you, and I'm going to register that you're next to me.
Right.
And so now I know that this package has been moved to this point, and this access control point can then basically upload the database, refresh the database, and now it's known that this part is complete. And so that's where we're really excited about building out the bigger picture, which is the platform side of this access control points, where these access control points are empowered by the proliferation of these tags.
We work almost as a hub, right?
Yeah, if we work as a gateway or a hub for something like this, or other companies work as a gateway or a hub, because it's the same as having your battery-operated Bluetooth key fob, which we can activate these with, but it's just taking that whole complexity out of it and making it totally like a very good user experience. And so that's where we see a lot of this going, is that this can maintain some of the power within it and broadcast a longer range, and it can then take all the information this has gathered and basically upload that back to the internet. So we love that concept of it. So now you know your medication didn't get hot, and so that's where my background, because it's a big problem if things are out of bound, and so it knows it's there, it knows it got to you, it knows that it was controlled throughout the life cycle of that delivery.
Chain of custody. Thanks for bringing that to life. Yeah, what we're making is super simple little Lego brick, metaphorically speaking, and but it becomes interesting when you kind of snap it onto these other solutions, and suddenly you have all this functionality that you hadn't thought of before. So let's just wrap up with, tell us a little bit about the story of how you guys got together and created this story. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but how did you create the business, and what inspired you? Because you're an aeronautical engineer. What are you doing this?
We are the two best friends that we could.
Oh yeah, so it really, I got into the startup world because I lost a bet to a buddy that went to the Air Force Academy with me. And so we started a medical education company with 6 of us in a house, like the way it always works, in a pool and a monster truck. And it just happened to be located in Scottsdale, Arizona, which...
Good buddies of mine.
And they were good friends of Justin. And so I was doing my PhD at the time, and I was really interested in compliance because I had a friend almost die from mistaking medication. And so he was almost died, and so I'm like, there's all this software that we work with all the time. I put a software on his phone that's remind him to take his medication, basically any kind of remind him to take him. He went to the hospital again because he was not taking his medication. And I was like, well, why? He was like, well, it was just annoying me, so I just turned it off. And so I was like, well, this is stupid. There's no physical accountability to go along with it. And so
Ira called me up. I had a software company at the time. He's like, dude, this guy didn't take his meds again. He's back in the hospital. Can you build an app that will, do this thing, and we can communicate through Bluetooth and so on and so forth.
Because I was and that's when I was trying to figure out the hardware tie-in, which was, do you make containers? And now they've come so far with it where they're actually swallowing RFID encrypted pills that you wear this patch on you. So that's the real
That is the ultimate.
This is
in terms of adherence tracking.
And so I was very engaged with how do you make compliance easy, and so there's got to be something physical with it, and so that's where it started from, and we kind of we went down that road, and we've built out the concept. The proof of concept was this smart cube
and 20 others,
but this one we're like, well, this one's actually sellable. We're manufacturing through Aero Electronics, and so we have big people that have helped us do this, and we're still in our rollout phase, and we're trying to see in 2019, 2020 how many access control points that
We'll just touch on that because I know we said we were going to wrap up, but the Arrow aspect of your business model is super interesting. What's the relationship with Arrow, and who are Arrow for those people who don't know?
Arrow's the biggest company you've never heard of.
Yeah, Arrow I think did 26 billion last year. World's largest, or biggest electronic component supplier, and so. We had met Arrow a couple years ago at a random show in Del Mar, and I ran up to him. I said, "Hey, you guys are distributors. We'll let you distribute our stuff if you can bring us to your clients." And then they're like, "Oh, we kind of have a different idea." And so they sat us down. They were doing this portfolio program, which enabled them to kind of scale up and grow their business and provide contract manufacturing and financing and other service for new companies, which inevitably gave them new clients and another outlet instead of kind of going by the wayside by the likes of a potential Amazon, right? So awesome business move by Arrow. We got scooped up. Went through a pretty rigorous 6 month of due diligence and all this stuff, and now they finance all our stuff. They manage the entire operation, bond all our electronic components for us, provide the supply chain, really enable us as a smaller company to act big and be large and not have to have 100 employees that actually manage these these processes. They do it for us. So we kind of lucked out, if you will, and
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Justin, Ira, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been a real pleasure.
Pleasure is ours.
Outside of the show and on the show.
Sir, well, thank you for thank you for everything that you are doing to push this forward, because you don't have lead times on capacitors and everything in here. The scooters and automotive industry. It's hard to build electronic products now, and that's why the Arrow relationships is good, because they set aside so many parts for us, and it's awesome, awesome stuff.
There's basically one part and an antenna and some glue.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing stuff.
Very good. Well, I'm really looking forward to formalizing this and getting a working product out with you guys, and I think people will be fascinated by your story. Thanks again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate
Mr. Beacon.
So we have this tradition on the show where I ask you about something that's got nothing to do with technology, which is your taste in music and the songs that you would take if you were going on a trip to Mars. It's a bizarre premise, but Justin, what are the 3 songs you'd take to Mars?
3 songs. Yes. I would say "Simple Man" by Skinner. I would say "Behind Blue Eyes" by The Who.
Okay, why did you choose that?
It's kind of my third one would be "Seal, Kiss from a Rose."
Okay.
Right, so the 3 of them, I think "Behind Blue Eyes" is more of kind of when you feel alone, you feel just out there on an island. It's one of those things that kind of just gets me going, digs from deep, and kind of just, revs it up a little bit. I think "Kiss from a Rose" kind of brings up my more gentle side, my loving side, kind of brings me back to the emotional aspect of just people and humanity. And I think "Simple Man," funny question, I actually asked my girlfriend this morning, I'm like, what would be a song that you would think of me? And she said, "Simple Man." I said, "Why?" She's like, "Well, you're a very kind and very gentle man, and you're very, just easy about life." So I think those would be probably the 3. One's from love, one's from drive, and one's from everyday life.
I love it. Beautifully choreographed, balanced. Ira, you strike me as someone who's pretty balanced in their life. You do this weird high-tech thing, and then you jump off cliffs and fly around.
Yeah, fly and surf, and flying is an amazing outlet for it, so...
What would be the music you would take? I assume you don't listen to music whilst you're flying. That would
we do. It's very common, especially with all the Bluetooth speakers out there right now. So you're usually, most people are bumping some beats while they're flying around. And so there's a very eclectic mix that goes in with that. And so I guess if it was to go to Mars, a little longer journey. So probably some longer songs. But no, I would definitely say either the original or one of the "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" is always a good one.
Okay.
And they have a few remixes of that song that are very, they kind of get you in that peaceful Zen place. And a lot of this stuff reverts back to that moment of clarity, I think. And so however you can find that. And then it's funny. I was gonna say "Simple Man" as well. That's one of my favorite songs.
Still can.
I think it. Yeah, I think it hits our age and demographic. And I actually gave that CD. The band Shinedown came out with a second version of it. That's really good. And I gave that CD to my mom for her birthday, and she loved it because she'd listened to the original one, and so it's kind of like our song together.
That's
and so,
awesome.
Yeah, that was kind of and so every time I hear it, it makes me think of my family life and stuff like that. So it's a cool one. And then
And Ira definitely brought the Shinedown rendition to my life,
Oh,
which is
really?
actually my favorite rendition. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
they do pretty good. And then, I don't know, just to keep it fun, I would have to go with Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
Like, just to
Love
keep,
that.
just to throw it in the mix, because I was originally from Florida, and it's kind of a hilarious song, and the guy's a hoot. So those three would mix it up, and then, you know, if you have B-roll, some nice classical, like, I was a pianist growing up, so.
Well, Ice Ice Baby's got Queen in it as well, hasn't it? So you got like a twofer.
And it's just, listening to that guy Rob Van Winkle explain the difference between his beat and their beat was hilarious. Dun, 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 dun. He's like, no, we had dun 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 dun. And so they put a symbol in there and it differentiated between it. So
Love that.
that
Very
was,
good. Well, excellent music choices. Thanks for the background,
no
guys.
problem.